The views and opinions heard on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the host.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
My breathing had stopped for so long that my heart actually ended up stopping.
You saw what I did. You put that I was inside.
And then I remember being gone. I wasn't there anymore.
I sort of lifted up about 6 feet above my body.
A pinprick of light appeared and came rushing toward me faster than the speed of light.
And then this light, all of a sudden it was all completely around me.
He says, I am God. Yes, I am real.
The main message was loving yourself and loving others.
It was clearly shown to me.
It was really hard to put into words. It felt like I had been there before.
It was just this very personal, impersonal, unconditional love.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I am your host, Lamont Gates, bringing you the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest discovered firsthand that life here on Earth contained a date we may not ever want to come, but the lessons learned made the experience worth every second of it. Let's get it started. Joining me, ladies and gentlemen, via Skype is near-death experiencer Graham Berstler. Graham, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Hey, Lamont. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, and I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your account, which I understand sparked a flurry of emotional senses afterward. But first, tell us a bit about how you were introduced to the concept of religion or spirituality growing up as a child. What was it you were taught?
Not all that much. The church that I went to, we didn't go very often. Usually it was just Christmas Eve, and that was about it. We may have went a couple of times during the year, but besides Christmas Eve, we never really went all that much. Wasn't a big part, but it was an introduction, at least.
So as a child, did you carry any thoughts on who may be governing the universe, perhaps?
Well, there was God, right? That was the one. But besides that, not a whole lot. Again, it wasn't a big part of my childhood or growing up. It wasn't a big part, but there was something there. Like we did believe in something.
So how old were you when you had your near-death experience?
Okay, I think I was 28. I had just turned 28. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you detail for us what led up to the experience?
Okay, so in 2017, early 2017, I started getting headaches every single day. And at first, I just wrote it off as maybe I was just dehydrated, but the headaches kept on happening every single day. And they were getting worse and worse, progressively worse and worse as the months went on. And at some point, I don't remember when exactly, but at some point, I figured out that if I lied down, my headaches went away completely. All at once, within about 15 minutes, my headaches went away. They all stopped. And this set up a whole bunch of red flags for me because I'd never experienced this. And it was, I was getting really scared at this point. I was getting very scared that something was really, really wrong. And then a couple months later, I think May, June, July, my wife finally pushed me to go to the doctor. I went to my doctor, told her I'm having positional headaches. And she said, okay, go and get an MRI. I said, all right. Next day, I got the MRI, went back to work. Later that day, I think around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call from imaging. And the only thing they told me over the phone, the only thing they ever said was drop whatever you're doing and get back here, and they hang up. And I'm in the back of my office now screaming at my phone. Like, are you fucking... I'm really angry at this point.
It's okay. You can express it.
Okay. So I called my wife first. She didn't answer. Called my mom. She answered. And then my wife called me back. And then we all met at the hospital. I get to the hospital. Nobody's telling me anything. They put me into... I put IVs in. They don't explain anything to me. And I have a meeting with a neurosurgeon a couple of days later in the hospital. And there's a tumor in my head and has to come out. I'm like, all right, at least I know what's going to happen or what's wrong. At least I know what's wrong. So then surgery happens. Neurosurgeon screwed up the surgery. Some malpractice case now. Can't really talk about that all that much. But a couple of days later, immediately after that surgery where the doctor screwed it up, my wife transferred me to another hospital, transferred me to NYU. Second neurosurgeon took out the tumor. Everything was fine. Everything was okay, right? Tumor was out. And I woke up. And a couple of days later, unbeknownst to me, I had a dream. And this was the near-death experience, right? At least at first, I thought it was just a dream. I woke up and everything was black. I could see stars. I was looking around like, wow, I'm in outer space. It looks like I'm in outer space. And I look down and I see my body. I'm laying in the hospital bed. I see my body. And I was just having fun at this point because I think it's just a dream. And I'm like, let me see if I can move my leg. Let me see if I can move my leg. Leg didn't move. I'm like, all right, let me see if I can move my foot. Can I move my foot? Can't move my foot. Foot's not moving. How about a toe? Just a toe. Not moving. Nothing happened. And this voice, I'll never forget this voice. This voice at this point was screaming in my head, this is it. This is the curtain call. It's over. And I fucking lost it. I was so sad. I got really, really sad. And then I got really angry. It went from pure sadness to pure rage, to pure anger. I was not going out today. Today was not the day I was going to die. No fucking way. I didn't know what the hell to fight against, but I was fighting against something. And I felt like this part went on and on for years. I was out of my body and I was there for a long time. And at some point, I guess I was given the choice to go back to my body or to proceed further on into what I knew as death. And I fucking thought about it. I was like, if I go back now, I got nothing to prove where I was. I got nothing. I've always had these questions. I want to know what death is all about. So let me go see. And in the event that I can come back, maybe I'll bring back something. So pure to my nature, I was curious and I went forward. I wanted to see what it was. And I floated away. I remember looking out into the distance, not at my body down, but out into the distance. And I saw this giant black ball. And the instant I looked at it, everything I just pure trance. Just everything in my head, everything I was thinking about stopped. Everything stopped. And I just floated towards it. And I just in total trance. Everything quiet. I'm not thinking, just done. And somehow I was able to shake myself out of it. Somehow. I don't know how. I shook out of it. I remember asking, will my wife be okay? If I let go right now, will my wife be okay? And that voice, the voice said, she'll be sad for a very long time, but eventually she'll be okay. And before I could even stop myself, before I could even snap out of it, I had left. I had already gone through. And the next thing I know, I went back to my very first life. And from what I can remember, I don't remember much at this point, but it was what I saw was all of my previous lives, every single one, before the one that I'm in right now. I saw every single one. And this part is a little blurry to me. I don't remember a whole lot. I remember maybe the first life, I think, from what I can remember, it was like bacteria or something. It was very, very small, like microscopic small. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And during this whole process, I'm just watching all these lives blow by. I don't remember a lot of them. At some point, I think there was something about like a lion, like I was a big cat, tiger or something. And we were all running around chasing whatever the hell we were chasing. And then after that, the last thing I remember was my current life, right? And it was very, I'm watching all my lives. It's not like a first person view. It's more like a third person out of body, like watching all the interactions that you've ever had, but with a different dimension. Like there's all the dimensions are interacting at the same time. You can see the vibrational energy just goes through every single dimension. It's very difficult for me to describe this part, but I remember this.
So time did not exist.
Right. Time is a variable you could control at will. You could control time at will. You can go forwards, you can go backwards, you can go at any point. And I remember this part now. After I saw all my lives, I remember going back to periods in history that we were taught about in school. For instance, one was the Joan of Arc, which for some reason was a big thing, and I went to go see that. And there's only a thought from this period of time where I'm going through all these events in history. There's only one thought that I can remember. And that's that, wow, all the events in history that we were taught about happened nothing the way that we were taught. We were taught completely wrong. And didn't happen the way that it said it was happened.
You know, I'm a firm believer of that.
That's the only thought that I have from that period of that. I guess at some point, it was like, all right, you have to make a decision now. Do you want to stay or do you want to go back? And I'm like, I want to go back. And something said, well, you spent way too much time. Like, you're already gone. Like, you can't go back now. Once again, no, I'm not doing it today. I'm not fucking doing it today. And this part went on for a long time. This went on for what felt to me like 1,000. I was there for 1,000 years. It felt like 1,000 years. And I went back and forth between pure sadness and pure anger. Sadness, anger, back and forth, back and forth. Just, I didn't believe it. There was no way that I was going to let it happen. I was not going to let go. I had to get back. There's only, when I think about it now, I don't know why that was so important for me to get back, but I don't know.
Was it the thought of rejoining your wife at all?
It was my wife, getting back to my wife, and also wanting to see my future kids grow up. I don't have any kids, but I'm going to have kids in the future, and I want to watch them grow up. And nothing was going to get between me and that. Nothing. And I argued with something. I don't know what it was, but I argued with something about it. And this went on for a long time, many lifetimes. It felt like many lifetimes. And at the last thing, I held out for 1,000 years. I know I said that many times now. I was about to give up. I was close to giving up and just letting go. And in that final moment before I was going to give up, I asked the question, is there a God? Will he come to me in my time of great need? And the voice that I heard that came back to me was, how your species defines God is not correct. Consciousness is the God. You are all gods in that way. That didn't mean anything. At the time, that didn't mean anything to me. It was just, God's not coming, right? So, all right. And the only other thing that I had was reach out to somebody else. Reach out to the other side. Satan. And at this point, I don't remember anything. I remember thinking that something happened, and I woke up at 4 a.m. in the hospital. And I just wanted to fight. Like I just wanted to fight. And I pulled out a cerebrospinal fluid drain from the back of my head. I pulled out a feeding tube, which, by the way, it's a lot longer than you think it is. It's a lot longer. And the nurses were not happy about that. And I remember the nurse who came in, and I had told her, I said something to her. I told her that I had this weird dream or something, and she's like, write it down. So I wrote it down, and I have the actual journal entry where I actually wrote it down. I didn't write anything down. I just wrote down that I had some weird experience, and the nurse told me to write it down. That's all I wrote down. But at that time, I didn't remember anything, nothing. And that's most likely because of the trauma to my brain that I had sustained during the first brain surgery. Yeah.
So let me come in with a few questions. This seemed to be a very intense experience, but you said in the beginning you heard a voice. Now, was this voice audible or telepathic?
That's a good question. I want to say it was telepathic. It wasn't. I mean, I could hear it in my head. So I guess that's telepathic. I'm going to guess. It sounded audible, but it could have been yeah.
Yes, typically many experiencers speak of a telepathic type of communication, so perhaps that's what it was. But you went on to say you reviewed all of your past lives, to which reincarnation seems to be a theme in near-death experiences. But yours is more of an outlier here, as most people say they were other people in their past, while you say you were a form of bacteria and even a giant feline at some point.
Yes, it sounds funny, but that's what I remember. Yeah.
No, not too far-fetched at all, though, for two reasons. One, all things seem to be possible with the power allowed from that spiritual side. And two, if we are just fragments of spiritual energy at the core, then perhaps that energy can incarnate into whatever it desires. In your case, bacteria, a lion, and then I'm assuming into human forms.
Yes.
Many people talk about standing before a light. Did you see a light anywhere in your experience?
Yeah, I didn't see a light. There was never a light. Not that I remember.
This ball of darkness you did see. As you went through it, what was the scenery within it?
What the hell did I see? I don't remember seeing anything. It was just, I guess it was just going back to my first life. I didn't see much going through. I didn't see much.
So it was more like retrieving information in it.
I guess so. Yeah. It's a better way to put it.
Concerning the question of God, you were told that, like the history you went back and saw firsthand versus how it was taught here in this realm, the perception of God is also wrong. In other words, God is a consciousness, and this consciousness dwells in all life. Do you feel that may have been the message they were trying to convey there?
I would agree with that, yes.
Many near-death experiencers do refer to God as source or a higher power, but I suppose because you did not see this figure with a beard sitting on a throne, you decided it probably doesn't exist, so you reached out to the devil, perhaps to find out if that entity would appear instead.
Yes. Yeah, because that was the last thing I had, right? Like when I was in that place at that period in time, I was like, nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody's coming to save me. I'm going to die right now if I don't do something. I'm trying to figure out how the heck do I get back? I got nothing. And so God was my only option. God wasn't there. God's not real, apparently, from my experience. So, all right, let me try this other thing. It's the only last thing I got.
And after that, you were popped back into your body.
Yes.
Did you return with any kind of extraordinary gifts? Some people return with precognition, as empaths, able to hear or literally feel other people's thoughts. Did any of that come back with you?
No.
So essentially, you're the same Graham that came out the way you went in, sensory-wise.
More or less, yeah.
I know you are a member of a near-death experience group on Facebook, and I've seen you post your beliefs on how God does not exist after your near-death experience. But I know you've received some opposition for that in this group. Would you like to address or further explain your position here?
I don't try and be, okay, the last thing I try and do, I don't try and be mean to anybody. I just want to put what I experienced out there as an option, I guess, for people who may have gone through the same thing or who just want to learn more, I guess. And I'm not trying to say God is not real. I'm just trying to explain what I saw, what I experienced. And I'm not trying to push my opinion forward as being the only thing. I'm not trying to say that. I don't try and be a bully about it. I just want to put my experience forth as my experience. That's all I really wanted to put it out as.
Now, you said a nurse, when you returned, wanted you to write your experience down. Did she say this due to hearing other people coming back with similar experiences, perhaps?
You know, I don't remember what I said to her. So I don't know. Maybe she just thought it was interesting and that I should write it down. But that interaction with the nurse, I don't remember what I said to her. But I wrote it down in the entry that I made. I wrote it down that she said to write it down. So that's literally what I just wrote down. I didn't write down a whole lot, to be fair.
What was it like for you attempting to communicate your experience to others?
Well, okay. So the first couple of months out of the hospital, I didn't remember anything. Nothing. But over time, I guess after 6 or 8 or 12 months, I started to remember bits and pieces of it, you know? And now I'm remembering more details, but for the most part, I didn't remember anything for about the first year out of the hospital. I didn't remember anything, maybe a little bit. But over time, over the past, I mean, it's been three years now. My God, it's been 3 years now since the hospital. And I remember most of it now. It did actually happen. I remember the feelings. And yeah.
How did your wife in particular react when you told her?
She listened to me. I don't want to say that she believed me, but she did believe a fair amount of it. Yeah, she didn't say that it was like, she didn't think I was crazy. She was actually very supportive with what I was trying to tell her and what I was trying to tell her about.
Yeah, because a big reason for you wanting to come back was for her. But let me ask, how has this experience changed your life? Do you think more about spiritual matters as opposed to the day-to-day rat race?
Yes, I do. Right. So I did come back with a fair amount of knowledge, things that I didn't know before this episode. Right. So that has changed a lot. That's changed a lot for me. Yeah. Just how I perceive the world and perceive what I'm going to do in the world. Yeah, that has changed everything. It's changed everything for me. Yeah.
Let me ask, what would you say to those who may be on the fence about their purpose here in life, or whether a spiritual realm even exists or not?
I can tell you that every single event, every single thing that happens in your life, no matter how insignificant, no matter how trivial, it was always going to happen the exact way that it happened. Nothing you ever did was ever going to change that. Your job is to figure out, why did that happen? What am I supposed to learn from that event occurring? Every event, everything that happens in your life, it's a lesson. There's a lesson in it. There's something that you're supposed to learn from that event happening.
Did you see at any given time that you may have pre-planned any of the events in your life?
I didn't pre-plan anything. I do have memories now before I jumped into this life. I remember seeing everybody in my life right now, before I jumped into this body. Everybody in your life right now, even your pets, everybody in your life right now, they've always been in your life throughout each life. They've always been there. You're not going to recognize them from this life to the next, but they have always been in your life from the very beginning. They've always been around you in some capacity, in some way, throughout each life. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. In fact, many would call these soul groups, which are souls who decided to group together in order to play a role in the spiritual development in each one's life here, which I think you explained how each inch of our lives is basically a lesson to be learned.
Yes. And we choose each life dependent on what the lesson that we have to learn is. And before you jump into that life, your memory is wiped. Your memory is wiped in an effort for you to learn these lessons as organically as possible. Whatever lessons that you have to learn in this life, your memory is wiped before, and so that you can learn these lessons as organically as possible.
So did any of the things you learned as a child, did any of the very small things you learned about God or religion as a child resonate with what you know now?
No, I think there was a reason for that. I don't know what that reason was, but I think there was a reason for that. But I don't know what that reason is.
Fascinating. Well, Graham, I want to thank you for coming on the show and adding to the literature, as well as hopefully bringing hope to others who hear your account and become convinced that there is a purpose and something more than just this earthly realm.
Yes, there is. I just try and help. That's all I try and do.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Lamont. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Graham Berstler. And that's going to do it here for me on Real Spiritual Talk Radio. Be sure to check out my Facebook page, Real Spiritual Talk Radio, and there you will find past shows and other relevant near-death experience information. Catch me also on YouTube. My channel name there is Lamont Gates. And there you will also find relevant near-death experience information, as well as past shows. Get in on the comment sections as well. And with that said, I thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have been much more spiritually enlightened now than you were prior. And with that said, once again, I am your host, Lamont Gates, and Real Spiritual Talk Radio is now signing off.